gentlemen, one point of clarification first. We set this up as a debate about the merits of democracy versus war. Tom, for about 4 minutes of his speech, has sidelined it with a red herring of human rights. We say, like, if there are human rights abuses, if there are problems with human rights, then yeah, we realise that. We think that, okay, maybe we should, like, do something about human rights. But if it's specifically intervening for the purpose of bringing democracy, we say that's a bad thing. We say we fought the law and the law won. Right, first of all, I must offer some rebuttal. So Tom talks about how, like, organic change, it doesn't really happen, like, organic change doesn't happen. Well, actually, really recent example of Musharraf in Pakistan, who was toppled by constitutional change, by organic change. There are examples of organic change that we can actually draw on. Moreover, he talked about, like, how, well, we created this mess, so, you know, we're surely the ones best placed to sort it out. I don't follow that logic. Like, we messed it up so badly the first time, I don't understand how we are suddenly, like, gonna be able to know suddenly how much better we actually, their society should be working. It doesn't make sense. Like, we are not in the best place to sort out their society. They are. Right. So my one key point in this is essentially to do with ideology and the backlash against the West. So, by invading a country on dubious grounds, we write the narrative for them. Because the point is, at the moment, we have, like, crazy little imams in mosques, and they say to impressionable young people, they're saying, look, the West hates you. The West wants to completely destroy you. The West, like, thinks that we are fundamentally dire-prone. The West and us cannot coexist. There is no possible way that Islam and Western democracy can coexist. And what we do by, like, invading these countries, we fundamentally prove them right. Because we rock up with our tanks and seem to show them that there is no way that our way of life and theirs can coexist. Through direct action, we make ourselves the bad guy. Go on.
Can you give us an example of a country where we have invaded purely on the basis of democracy? Because we think this debate doesn't exist and it's unfair.
Okay, well, I would say that hypothetically, like, on the grounds that was set out, was the idea that, like, we could, if we did invade a country on the grounds of democracy, that this is the debate that we're looking at. And anyway, like, the idea of, say, I'm just going to carry on with my constructive and sort of science. I will deal with that later on in my speech, I promise you. Okay, so yeah, as I was saying, like, all we serve to do is make ourselves diametrically, like, fundamentally opposed to their way of life. And this is crucial because it only serves to intensify the violence, it only serves to make it more extreme. Because what we do, we push people to the extremes. We push people into, like, the most bizarre interpretation of Islamic and whatever law it is, actually, that they're adhering to. Because we make it seem rational and logical. And this is because when we invade, we make it seem like it's a fight to the death between the two. We make it seem like there is no way throughout the histories of the two ideologies that the two are ever going to coexist. And this is because... No, thank you. And thus, the extremism almost seems, like, reassuring. You know, if people are coming into your country, if people are, like, bombing your wives, your women, your children, this actually... Your wives, your many wives. Then, like, obviously, you're going to want something to cling to. You're going to want something to comfort. You're going to want something to actually make you think that your way of life is okay, and that there's some way that you can fight against this. There's some way that you can fight against this oppressive force that's coming in. And what fundamentalism and extremism offers is this fight. Like, extremism, it tells you, yeah, like, we can fight against this. If we all fight against this, like, our culture can actually survive. And it actually makes it a fight to the death. Because it says, if you don't fight, our culture will be destroyed. And that's a critical issue here, because it becomes an issue of culture. It's not simply like certain countries, it's not simply normal wars or conventional warfare of any type. It's an issue of destroying certain cultures, destroying certain ideologies. And this is what it becomes about. On top of this, when people are killed in the future, when anyone dies in like an arbitrary bomb that was actually, say, nothing to do with us, when it was to do with their own forms of violence, there are all different forms of sectarian violence, this can always be traced back to the West. This can always be traced back to the malevolent aggressors, because we are the ones who created the conditions for this to exist. We are the ones who put bombs, who have led to roadside car bombings. We're the ones who led to suicide bombs in city centres, because we are the ones who are there and changed the status quo. It is therefore fundamentally, I've lost my timer.
Before you go on.
Okay, go on.
Right, we say that's a non-mutually exclusive argument. We think Saddam pushed the Kurds to the same point. We think we liberate more people by intervention.
Okay, now I fundamentally disagree with that point, because, like, no, because it's on a much larger scale, I think the issue is that, like, whilst in, say...
Sir?
No, I'm not going to take that, I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to take that, because, like, on that smaller issue, it is true that, well, that's a human rights thing. That's a human rights thing. We're not going down there. That's not fair. That's a red herring, this debate. We're not listening to that point. It's not dealing with the case we set out, which was a completely fair, rational, and logical way to drop this motion. Okay. So what have we showed you on side proposition? We've showed you that by intervening and by fighting, we only actually make democracy less likely. This is what Guy's shown you. But I've shown you that actually we only create more of a backlash. We only make it more of a clash of ideologies as opposed to like an instant intervention, get in, put your flag, democracy, job done, well done, we can all go home team. And this is why this is something that we must stand proud in proposition, and why it fits in very nicely with the aphorism of how we fought the law and the law won. We think that the two therefore fit together, and that's why we beg to propose.